Charlie Curnow kicks 9, Toby Green kicks the match winner, and Will Ashcroft kicks just about the best goal you'll see all year. So let's kick off the round so far, brought to you by AAMI. This is the round so far, brought to you by AAMI. I'm Riley Beveridge. This is Kane Cornes. Kane, it's been a massive round 7 so far. Let's kick it off. Our big story today is at the SCG, where Toby Green proved the match winner as the Giants won a Sydney Derby thriller.
What a captain he's turning out to be, Toby Green. Just an absolute star. For all money, this looked like Sydney were going to win this. They're 24 points up, 12 minutes into the last quarter, and then enter that man with that freak goal off the ground. He kicked 2 in the last quarter. The Giants only went inside 50 10 times, and they scored 7 times from those 10 entries, including 5 goals. So Perryman and Green both kicked a couple of goals there, and we're going to show the match winner in a second with Toby Green. Here it is off the back of the stoppage. The lack of attention from Sydney was alarming, and their once heralded defence, the Swans, and their mantra of being hard to play against is quickly disappearing. But what a rivalry it is turning out to be. It's been some really close games and some close wins for the Giants, and this was special, as highlighted by Adam Kingsley's reaction.
Their last 4 wins against Sydney have all been decided by under 2 points, so that goes to show just how much of a rivalry it's turning into. You mentioned the Swans conceding 7 scores from 10 entries. They had 20 themselves in the last quarter. They just couldn't find a goal.
Yeah, no, what a waste. You look at every stat on the ground, and Sydney won. Now, this is the alarming thing for John Longmire. Look how many times these balls are directed to a 36-year-old Buddy Franklin. They refuse to admit this is a problem, because he always plays okay. Like, he kicked 3 today and plays okay, so they think you get away with it. But they are turning into a worse team when Buddy Franklin plays, as ridiculous as that sounds. But 13 times they targeted him, and he just commands the footy, and that has always been the case over the course of his career. But it does them no good because of how inefficient they were going inside 50 and how predictable they have become.
So he had 13 targets inside 50. The next most for the Swans was Logan McDonald with 4. As you mentioned, though, Sydney dominated every facet of the game. It reminded me of that round 4 clash against Port Adelaide, where they led for the majority of that match and then gave it up late. The
How
stats
can you
are
lose? How can you lose this? If you said before the game, this is it, plus 23 in contested, plus 15 in entries, 9 in clearances and marks inside 55. Now, usually when Sydney get beaten, they get smashed in contested possessions. Well, they did the smashing today. It was just defensively, particularly in that last quarter, they weren't strong enough, and they've got a real issue. The teams that they've beaten this year haven't been of anyone of quality. They've been the teams down the lower end of the ladder. They got smashed by Geelong. They lost to Port Adelaide in a tight one. They've now lost to the Giants in a tight one, and their season is slowly slipping away.
Toby Green, as you said, he was the match winner. 22 disposals, 4 goals, 2 goal assists. He was everywhere in this one.
Yeah, no, he's just, I mean, if he's not top 3 player in the game, he's top 5. So it probably goes Cameron, Bont and Curnow, the top 3 players in the game. This man is in the next line and has been for a long time. I love the fact that he could be a prolific midfielder, but he doesn't. He plays that dangerous medium-sized forward role because that's what he is best at, and he doesn't get the massive numbers that everyone else gets, but everything he touches turns to gold. I want to highlight this because this is just smart. Florence got him at the stoppage this last one. He outsmarts him. He says, I'm going to go to Warner, and then both of them drop off, so he gets the mismatch late. Horrible defending from Warner and Florence because no one takes him, but how is the footy smarts to give yourself just a little bit of space and to kick the match-winning goal? So that's been the development in his game, and an inspired choice as captain, and he's having an outstanding All-Australian-worthy season.
Toby Green is an awesome footballer. Another awesome footballer is our Saturday star for today. That is Charlie Curnow. He inspired Carlton's win out in the West against the Eagles. A career-high 9 goals for Curnow. 14
marks, 9 goals, 8 contested marks. I think he had 16 score involvements. I mean, it's an absolute day out now. The opposition was as bad as it gets, and we'll get to what it means for the competition with West Coast and North Melbourne in their current situations and how it is compromising the whole of the season. But this was just awesome. So let's celebrate the player that he has become. He's a top 3 player in the game. There's no doubt about that. Cameron, Bont and Curnow, and he was unstoppable and was a human highlight reel today, and they just had no answers for him. The only shame was that he didn't get double figures.
Yeah, so he's kicked 30 goals after 7 games. After 7 games last year, he had 19. Of course, that's the year he won the Coleman. So he's 11 goals better off. See if he can get to 100. Now, Carlton have won 4 of their first 7. Their next 6 weeks, though, could be make or break for their year.
Yeah, we're going to find out a little bit about the Blues, aren't we? Now, they got their stoppage game back today, which has disappeared. It was their weapon last year. They kicked 10 goals from stoppage tonight. But Lions, Bulldogs, Collingwood, Swans, Melbourne and Essendon. Yeah. There's some real quality there. So we're going to stand here on this platform in 6 weeks' time and have a pretty clear indication of whether Carlton are finals contenders, top 8, premiership, or bottom 8. We will find out in the next 6 weeks.
What can West Coast get out of this season?
No, not much. It's just they're just a blight on the competition, really. And if you look at Adam Simpson's record, I just don't believe any coach can survive that, regardless of what you've done. And look, he's been a great coach, premiership coach, but he's 3-30 in his last 33 games, and the average losing margin is alarming. They've been in denial. They've refused to rebuild. They've let standards slip. They've denied that that has happened, but it's clearly been the case. Their highly paid veterans do not perform. There's an injury crisis at the club. They've got issues everywhere. Yeah. I don't know where to begin, but I do know that no coach survives a record of 3-30 in your last 33 games, and to lose by over 100 tonight was embarrassing. It
was Carlton's first win by over 100 points in well over a decade. We'll head to the MCG now, where Melbourne nearly broke the 100 mark as well against North Melbourne. I'll tell you what, was this good football from Melbourne or really poor football from North?
This is the first 3 minutes of the game. So at least give me some effort in the first 5 minutes. So speaking of a blight on the competition, North Melbourne are exactly that. Now, we didn't expect miracles from Alistair Clarkson, but we expected effort. There's the captain, McDonald. There's Logue on a massive long-term contract coming in, and I don't know what he's doing star jumps, jumping up and down while Piggott kicks it over his head. He's the captain of the club again. I mean, you're going to get tackled. It's AFL football in the goal square, bang. So we could have shown 30 clips like there's Petrarca, Norm Smith medalist, top of the goal square. That's their forward line with no one on him, walk-in goal. How many clips could we have shown? Yeah. Watch Fritsch, doesn't take the mark. They all stop. Ball falls to the ground. He turns around with not one bit of pressure or contact on him and snaps it on his right foot. So I expected a lot more from North Melbourne. If that was David Noble coaching, the pressure would be so severe on him. The fact that it's Alistair Clarkson, it won't be. But they are the easiest team to play against, North Melbourne. They're the easiest team to transition the ball against, and there is no effort. They're genuine witches' hats, and I guess it is distorting the competition.
Yeah. 5 straight defeats now for the Kangaroos. One man who relished that extra freedom, as you mentioned, was Christian Petrarca. 35 disposals, 3 goals, 14 score involvements as well.
Yeah, you know what I love about him is his hunger. I think he spoke, and it may have been to the AFL platform during the week, about how desperately he just wants to win premierships. And you can see it. Like, look how far in front they are in terms of the score, but it's Viney giving effort, it's Sparrow giving effort, it's Gawn. Like, they're all just... Doesn't matter what the score is or the situation of the game. I was told they train like that through the pre-season, really contested and combative. They're fit. I think they're the fittest team in the competition, and they're hungry, and it doesn't matter the scoreline. And he is a clear driver of that, along with Clayton Oliver, who was also enormous tonight again.
It was a really sombre night for North. It got worse when young Charlie Comben went down with what looked like pretty nasty lower leg injury. Now, we won't show you the injury because it was quite gruesome, but this is a player that struggled for so much of his young career due to injury. He suffered a number, even before he got drafted, playing as a junior basketballer as well, and he goes down again.
There was some promise there, wasn't there? Yeah. Like, it hadn't all come together for him. I think just 3 goals for the year, but the thing he did give was effort. Yeah. He was a great tackler, and he got after the opposition with some aggression, and there was hope that Larkey and Comben could be the 2 key forwards for them for the next 10 years. Now, that's not to say that won't happen, but clearly it's a massive setback, and our thoughts are with him and his family.
We'll head to our AAMI clangers now. Who covers clangers? AAMI does. We want to start with our man Razor Ray. Jaden Stevenson, firstly, he gives away a 100-metre penalty. He gives away back-to-back 50s. And then the arms out. Do not talk to me. Don't want to hear it.
Do not talk to me, Jaden. That was the double 50, and Razor absolutely loved it. Now, this is Bedford in for his first game for the Giants. I don't know if I've ever seen a player run too far, not once in a game, but twice. If you're talking about an AAMI clanger, get rid of it. And I reckon he was harshly done with on both occasions.
He was
50-50, but I like the fact that he's taking the game on.
Now, how's this from Swans debutant Mark Sheether? Comes off his chest. He's got no idea. It went about 20 metres in the air. It's turned into a pretty good goal assist, though, for Chad Warner.
Yeah, all's well that ends well. Important goal there, but that went up high and unusual. Look how high this ball goes. Right up. They got no idea where it went, and eventually the Swans end up kicking a goal.
All right, we will head to the Gabba now, where Brisbane easily dispatched Fremantle. They won this game out of the middle, didn't they?
Oh, they did. They just absolutely brutalised them. So their ground ball stuff was amazing, and we'll get to that in a second. But they kicked 10 stoppage goals. Now, Fremantle's strength last year was they were really strong defensively, and they had a really aggressive, young midfield. That was their strength. We all remember Brayshaw and Sarong's had a big year. The rest have dropped off. But Brisbane's talent through this area of the ground and in the forward half is as good as it gets. So there's Big O. He had 9 clearances himself. He's in good form. Took on Darcy and Jackson and beat them. Lockie Neal's numbers were extraordinary. He had 13 clearances and 18 ground ball gets. And Bailey and Rayner and all of them, Charlie Cameron, they all get involved. And young Ashcroft as well, which we'll show in a second. He had massive numbers, and it was his best game for the club as well.
So they dominated them in just about every facet of the game. Fremantle finished higher than the Brisbane on the ladder last year. So this isn't an established good team against an established bad team.
You know what I'm sick of hearing? That Fremantle are young. This is a team that won a final last year, and they may be young because they lost some players, but this isn't a team that was going backwards.
Yeah.
This was a team that had recruited to go up and finish in the top 4, and that's what you get when you're tested. They've been so disappointing. That is an absolute smashing across the board. There's not one area that Justin Longmuir could walk away with and go, oh, that was a positive, we'll take that. They were beaten badly, and also we wanted to highlight their style of play today. Yeah,
we will. We'll get to that in a second, though, because we'll get to our moment now. It was this goal of the year contender from young Will Ashcroft, the father-son prospect at the Lions, pick number 2 in last year's draft. I reckon he's got Charlie Cameron done from last week.
I think he does. Now, we argued about Cameron and whether it was a fluke last week. I said fluke, you said he meant it. He absolutely meant this. It took us back to Daniel Wells from the early 2000s, but this was much harder. So that is almost going to be impossible to beat as goal of the year. And if there is the moment, which it is, that's him. And that's him breaking out as a future star of this competition. I can't wait to watch him for the next 15 years.
Now, you mentioned the way Fremantle played today. We've been critical of their Dower game style. They tried to take it on a little bit more today with the handball.
They were spooked, though.
Did they overuse it?
Yeah, they were spooked. So they couldn't handle Brisbane's pressure. And look at this. This is not AFL standard. And it's a bit... Yeah, I don't mind them trying something different, but this was over the top. 78 handballs in the first quarter, which was the most in any quarter by any team this year, and they just welcomed the pressure in, and they were spooked. They either hacked it or they fumbled it and they overhandled. There's even points here where they could be out, but they're almost looking to handball. So it was a clear strategy that they worked on during the week to change things up, but he just looks a little bit lost, Justin Longmuir. I mentioned this coaching from the bench last week. He's gone away from that really dour defensive system, and he's second-guessing himself, and that was another indication with their overuse and their overhandballing today, and they couldn't handle Brisbane's pressure.
We'll head to Marvel Stadium now and Friday night footy, where Port Adelaide got the job done against St Kilda. Now, you want to highlight how they beat the Saints' defensive press.
Yeah, well, we're all wondering how you score against St Kilda. This is what you do. So that's from a kick-in, but Houston doesn't even look. He knows he's got a one-on-one up on the logo, so he goes. Dixon wins a really critical contest, and Burne-Jones kicks the ball inside. Williams there, young player. That's the kick, that angle kick inside, and then you don't go back off your mark. You get it over that first line where St Kilda is sagging to about 15 metres out from goal. That kick from Horne-Francis late in the game opens the whole thing up. You get the ball long with penetration, you win a critical contest, and that's how you score against St Kilda. There's also a thought that when you are tired, you've got to control the ball against St Kilda. You don't want to get into a basketball game against them. So I thought tactically, Ken Inkley's last month has been really strong, and he outpointed Ross Lyon on Friday night.
Jeremy Finlayson had a number of jobs throughout the night. He turned into makeshift defender in the last 5 minutes. Took himself back behind the football. This is behind the goals
vision, isn't it?
And took 2 great intercept marks.
Yeah, so this is late in the game when St Kilda were coming hard and Port Adelaide are trying to protect the lead. So there's the positioning. The work of Aaliyah here is really important. Not in this one, that's the next one. But Finlayson's versatility. So forward kick 5 last week. Goes in the ruck when he needs to. That's the one Aaliyah just blocked for him there. And his ability to smartly position himself when St Kilda were bombing it in was important. So he's turned into such an important player, as I said, forward, ruck, and also behind the ball. And the recruiting of him and Aaliyah, which they didn't give up much to get, has been vital for the success that they've had in the last month.
Jason Horne-Francis again proved his worth. Career high 11 clearances. He was the most dominant player out of the midfield.
Yeah, he was enormous, wasn't he? I mean, the recruit can change a club, and that's the way I feel about this. There's one player can actually change the direction of your club, and I think he's going to do that. And Butters and Rosie and himself in the midfield. So the other thing with St Kilda, you've got to match them around the footy, and Port Adelaide did that. Now they sent Crouch to him, they sent Steele to him at times, and for a 19-year-old to have that attention is a real feather in his cap. But it's the explosiveness, and you know, he didn't probably kick it as well as he has so far this year, but the drive that he gave Port Adelaide through the midfield, his toughness and his want to win. 4 games this year, if he doesn't play, they don't win, and that's a 19-year-old who hasn't done a pre-season.
Now, Port Adelaide have conceded a lot more free kicks than anyone else in the competition. This is what Coach Ken Hinkley had to say after the game.
I'm not an umpire bagger or whinger about it, but at the moment we're a long way in front with the free kick count against. It'd be nice to get some clarity from the umpires back to us. If we're that poor at some of the things we're doing, I'd just love to get that direction coming back our way, because I don't want to go searching for it. In a two-way conversation, I think it'd be nice to feel why we've given away 20 plus more free kicks for holding the man in this competition 6 rounds in. That's a big number. We're aware of it, we work at it, but we seem to be keeping on doing it. So we must have something wrong with the umpiring of the game.
They're in 56 holding the man free kicks they have given away.
Yeah.
Next most is 34 in the competition. And when I say he's coaching well, I mean, that's a subtle message to the umpire. I can tell you they're ropeable about this, and they're going, what is going on that we sit there with free kicks?
But what is it, though? Because that can't be... Is that an anomaly?
I think it's a bit of what he's saying. Are we doing something technically?
Yeah.
Now they've looked at that. They can't find anything. Are they being harshly judged by the umpires? I think that is the case, certainly watching on Friday night, because that's unusual to be that far ahead of the rest of the competition. And it hasn't cost them win-loss. I mean, I think they've had the toughest draw in the competition. The draw continues to be tough ongoing. But if they can tidy that area up, is what he's saying, it's going to be a massive advantage for them.
Completely agree. We'll head to Marvel Stadium now, where the Western Bulldogs eventually got the job done against Hawthorn. The Hawks led at half-time, and then the Dogs kicked 7 goals to 2 after the break.
Yeah, I watched this game live, and I've got to say, I was really impressed with Hawthorn. I think they've started to add layers to their game, so really strong out of the midfield, and they beat the Western Bulldogs. We're highlighting Norton here, who kicked 4 goals. Lob kicks this one there. So after half-time, the Western Bulldogs, as you said, 7 goals to 2 and were dominant. But for 2.5 quarters, Sam Mitchell would have been wrapped. He's also added elements to his game with his ball movement. So I thought they were really composed, transitioning the ball from half-back to their forward line. And they had some really good passages of play where they were able to hit up some leading forwards. So, you know, Newcomb's in there, Ward's in there. They've got some good young players. Some of them were left out of the side. McKenzie and McDonald, they will come back in. So they're building something, and they're becoming a difficult team to play against. But I think Luke Beveridge would be really pleased with the development of the Dogs and where they sit in the competition.
Now, the Hawks rushed Mitch Lewis back from his knee injury that he's dealt with all year. His first game of the season took 9 marks in the first half.
Yeah,
he was dominant.
11 for the game. I mean, he was amazing. So he just covered the ground. He was getting up and he was presenting on the logos like he is here. He was attacking the footy, and aerially, that was a career best. 11 marks for him. The only blemish was the 1 goal for, and some really gettable opportunities. Now, he will fix that up, I'm sure, but what a positive step for Hawthorn to get him back into the team, and what a target he was for them today.
Now, I found this interesting because the Dogs won quite convincingly in the end. I think they were the first team all year not to use their tactical sub. So Toby McLean was the sub, didn't get on the ground throughout the entire
So does he not get a game for that?
Well, I think he still does.
Does he?
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't.
But I wonder how they use him now. Like, I'm not sure if their AFL team played today, but I just found that fascinating.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? And I don't mind it. If they didn't need him, and they had particularly after half time, there was no danger of them losing that game, and perhaps there were some players that they wanted to continue to build and get some match fitness into. So I got no issue with them not using it, but it is strange.
All right, we'll have a look at our remaining round 7 games after this quick break.
The AFL Live app is the home of footy. All the stats, highlights, live scores and more, all in one place, the Match Centre.
Keep an eye on every game.
Footy was back with a bang.
They just had no answers on the weekend.
Get your daily footy fix.
Welcome to Gettable. This is your one-stop shop for trade, draft and free agency.
The AFL Live app is where you can watch your favourite shows.
Wherever and whenever you want. The AFL Live app is everything you need to connect with our game.
When you're younger, you train for a sport. When you're older, you train for the rest of your life.
Download the AFL Live app now and never miss a moment.
All right, Kane, we'll take a look at our remaining round 7 fixtures now, starting with Essendon's big clash against Geelong at the MCG. Richmond hosts Gold Coast at Marvel Stadium, and Adelaide plays Collingwood at the Adelaide Oval to finish round 7. That's where we will find our Kane's question for this week. I want to ask you, can the Crows beat the Pies if Rory Laird doesn't play?
Probably not, but he's going to play, according to the Crows CEO, Tim Silvers, who's my man, and would always speak honestly in the media. He spoke to the media today and said Rory Laird is good to go, which surprised me, because with a calf I thought they would have been cautious.
And he didn't look good earlier this week.
Nah, Collingwood with no ruckman, off a short break, playing away from home in front of 50,000 very optimistic Adelaide fans. It's not going to be as easy as many people predict.
It's going to be a great game. Looking forward to watching it. Kane, great from you today, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.